2A women's lacrosse. Chris Cotter, Mark Hertzler, Katie George with you in Tallahassee, Florida State spring game. Second drive of the day for the Noles. Not keeping score, didn't split up into teams, so it's basically just a scrimmage. But we'll see a lot of good on good, especially here in the first hour. Quarterback Tate Rodemaker now rolling out and throws a pick. Intercepted by Kevin Knowles, the early entrance freshman. All of his teammates from last year in Hollywood, Florida are still in high school, and he comes in and makes a pick here in his first spring game in Tallahassee.
Yeah, and it was good pressure by number 42, Deontay Williams, transfer out of Baylor. And look at this. I mean, that's closure. That's understanding where the ball is in the air, undercutting the route from the wide receiver and making a huge play. And Rodemaker needs to throw the ball out there a little farther. He has his wide receiver deep. But again, two freshmen so far in this very short start of this game have made impactful plays. First, it was Malik Mclean on the touchdown catch and run, and then Kevin Knowles. Just a consistent player is what the coaches say. And how consistent can he be when the lights are on? Well, first impact play, interception, he made it. So I'd say that's pretty good.
Just celebrating a birthday yesterday, I believe, too. So happy birthday to Kevin Knowles. .920 mark of our first of two halves, if you will, in this game. Looking back at last year, we talked about it. They had to use a lot of different starting quarterbacks. Much more effective on the ground. Jordan Travis, that was the best part of his game when he was starting. But they were able to run the football, and especially at the end of the year. Got a big win against North Carolina mid-season, but they weren't really able to build on that. Just far too many injuries, far too many players that are going to be playing in the NFL that decided to opt out last year and not risk it, not risk their futures. You can certainly understand that. So just several different reasons why they had to go so far down the depth chart. 19 players made their first college start last year for the Seminole team. So all those reps for all those young players, and we're seeing the fruits of those reps come into fruition here.
Yeah, and you see Mackenzie Milton in now at quarterback. His first pass was incomplete, and then a handoff. Now let's see what he does on third down. If he's able to get the ball out towards the sideline.
He does quickly and finds his running back, Corbin.
Look at his record, 26-7 as a starter, and he's won the last 23 games that he has started. He was injured in 2018, missed the last 2 games of that year, but I mean, when the coach talked to the coach, he said, look, what kind of sets him apart? That he makes plays when everything breaks down. And on that play, it broke down because we saw the other number 11, Jermaine Johnson. We mentioned him in the open. Defensive end, transfer out of Georgia, just sacked McKenzie Milton. But those two guys, in Johnson and Milton, probably the 2 biggest name transfers that have come in to Florida State in this offseason, and both trying to make impacts for this team.
There's Jermaine Johnson, young man out of Minnesota. J.C. Rowell, then University of Georgia, before transferring here in the offseason. Milton now with all kinds of time. Just dumps it underneath. Katie George is the third member of our crew. What do you got on Mackenzie Milton, Katie?
Well, I asked Mackenzie, Chris, earlier this week where he's at physically and mentally, and he said, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know if my leg will ever completely feel like it did before, and that's okay, he said. I'm completely fine with that, but he says he feels really good and is confident he can perform at a high level. Yes, he wears the brace, but he says his leg doesn't bother him while he's playing, and it's not something he even thinks about while on the field, which is certainly a good sign, but he is, of course, reminded every day of what he's gone through to get to this point because of all the scars on his leg.
3rd and 17. Tries to find his receiver streaking down the right sideline, and he does. Malik Mclean makes another tough catch. We told you to watch out for number 11. We weren't wrong.
No, you were not wrong. Look, just anywhere there is a number 11 on the field, whether he's wearing maroon and he's on defense or he's wearing white and he's on offense, the guy's going to make some impact plays. That was a great job going up and high pointing that football. And another fantastic throw by McKenzie Milton. The back shoulder to Brian Robinson, his wide receiver. And you saw that, just the release, the quick release by McKenzie Milton, put the ball accurately right where it needed to be. And Brian Robinson did a fantastic job of coming back and making that play.
First the pass here. McLean coverage didn't look so bad.
No, it really did. I mean, just look at that ball placement out in front. Fernando Padron. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Akeem Dent, the cornerback who's coming off of injury, was covering. Great job on the catch, and then you saw that touchdown at the end by number 3. 2 back-to-back really impressive throws by Milton.
Roadhouse converts to PAT. We are almost exactly halfway through our first period in this scrimmage in Tallahassee. We've got a chance to see Travis, Rodemaker, Milton. Gino English is also suited up tonight. Jubba Purdy is not. He's still rehabbing the shoulder injury, so we will not see him today. But the 3 on the left played last year for the Noles. McKenzie Milton hasn't played since his days with UCF back in 2018.
Look at those numbers, though, for McKenzie Milton. 33 games, he's had over 8,500 yards passing and 72 touchdowns through the air, and only 20 interceptions. So 72 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. That's a ratio that an offensive coordinator can definitely live with. And he's played for some coaches in his time that have been known for offensive minds. You Frost, who was there at UCF, and then Josh Huppel came in, and now he's got the opportunity to come and play for a Mike Norvell offense that just knows how to put up points.
Guy Douglas on the return. Katie?
Well, McKenzie has family guys in town from Hawaii and California. They're supporting him in the stands tonight. His dad, Mark, his mom, Teresa, and his oldest brother, Matthew, all made the trip in to support him. And they have to be mighty proud of their son and their brother just for competing out on the field. But you got to think that there was a big smile across their faces after that touchdown throw.
Oh,
no
yeah.
question about it.
Yeah, you got to imagine. I mean, first of all, this is a guy that has not played competitive football in over 2 years. And the fact that he was able to just come out and, feel comfortable enough to throw. And the fact that this is a spring game where, pressure's relatively off, allowing him to play competitive football in this environment is so good for his development. I mean, it's been a long road, and his parents and brother have fought right alongside him. So it's great that they're here to witness him throw that first touchdown pass.
Nice play by another early enrollee, Joshua Farmer, number 96 on that defensive line. Jet sweep wasn't going anywhere. Coach Fuller talked a lot about him too, how he's got really high hopes for him as they make him a 3 technique on that defensive line, and showed his quickness there on the interior on that play.
Yeah, he came in a little small, only about 270, 271 when he came to school, but he's already put on about 15 pounds. I mean, you look at kids in high school and you see a raw talent, but then just 15 pounds since he's come. He's a true freshman since January. That's fantastic. The weight program has done their job. And more spring game when we come back.
Here on the campus of Florida State, so they crowned the homecoming king and queen last night. Good to see. We're all getting back on track and as close to normal as we can, as quickly as we safely can.
Chris, I'd be interested. Were you homecoming king?
No chance.
Me neither.
Yeah, I know, that surprised me a little bit that you weren't.
No, I was not. I bet Katie might have been homecoming queen. She seems like she could. She's nice enough. She could probably get that.
Well-rounded, great athlete in high school.
Yep,
great
exactly.
Student. Everything going for her.
Sadly, boys, I came in 5th in the voting, so I did not win homecoming queen. It is still something that I think about often to this day.
You were on the first page of the leaderboard, though. So you were in the fight, though. At least you had
That's
that
true.
going
That's
for you.
true.
Right. I don't even think I was in the also receiving votes category. Tate Rodemaker now moving Florida State, but the whistle will blow. Sack. Once again, Malcolm Ray showing up here on the interior defensive line.
Yeah, see Malcolm Ray inside working against a double team and just consistently moves towards the ball. See, that's an opportunity for Rodemaker to get the ball out, to step up through the pocket and either take off running or just dump the ball down to his back. You know, it's a third down. You don't want to take a sack. You want to try to get a first down, but
that's also
really good job. Yeah.
That's also a touch football sack because he's running through that arm tackle if that's a real football game.
That is true.
But as you know, being a defender, Mark, in these spring games when these quarterbacks have the non-contact jerseys on, you do not want to make contact with the quarterbacks or you're going to be running steps. What was the penalty for you when you were at BC if you ran into Matty Ice or any one of your quarterbacks?
Yeah, we had what we call dawn patrol, where at the crack of dawn you had to be in the weight room and they would put us on those air spin bikes and just make us ride those bikes until we puked. So we stayed away from Matt Ryan in those times. It's funny though, because the more clout you have as a quarterback in the spring game, the more strict the coaches are. But when you get like the backups in there or something, they're a little bit more lenient. But yeah, no, but lobbying also comes into play. You know, I don't think I'll ever be on Capitol Hill, but I learned how to lobby my share during spring football. I said, I got that sack, coach. Count it down. Tally me.
Right, you're in the general vicinity of the quarterback, so they're going to give you a sack on this stat sheet. Jordan Travis back in a quarterback. Fake to Corbin, running for his life, and he just dumps it off. There's the other number 11.
Yeah, I mean, Jermaine Johnson, I've been watching him specifically on pretty much every play that he's been in. And right now, there's no one on the offensive line for Florida State that can block him. I mean, this is a spring game. Yes, it's not full contact, but for the offensive and defensive lines, I mean, they're blocking and they're rushing. And this is a guy that's going to force teams to chip with a tight end, with a running back. They got to get someone in front of him. You see him standing up at top of the screen of the defensive line. He did a lot of that two-point stands at Georgia, and just so much more of a get-off he's able to have.
Travis just beyond the extended reach of tight end Cameron McDonald. Another interesting position in this spring game, tight end. McDonald had some numbers last year, but nobody else really backing him up, Mark, was able to be productive. And I know this coaching staff and Dillingham and Norvell, they want to involve their tight ends more, but I think they have to find some more depth. They've got to find some players other than McDonald, and maybe it's Jordan Wilson, the transfer from UCLA, that's going to step up.
Yeah, you know, Jordan Wilson is a guy, he's a grad transfer before last season, but he was injured during the preseason. We haven't really seen him be able to play at all. You know, he's a 6'4", 6'5", 260-pound guy who, you know, they think can block but also catch the football. But you mentioned Cameron McDonald, just 23 receptions last year. And when we talked to Dillingham, he said, look, we want our tight ends in the 40-50 range in terms of catches. So that's why you're seeing them try to get these tight ends involved earlier. Good highlight right here on the big defensive end, Jermaine Johnson.
Right to Corbin. Look at Travis just dancing around and trying to make something happen. Quick feet.
Yeah, we talk about short area quickness, and usually you're referring to running backs. Look at that smile on his face. He just juked the socks off Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson was playing it pretty well. Just really, really good quickness. Quarterback broke his ankles.
Good for a first down. Now Jordan Travis, sophomore from West Palm Beach, changing the play. Empty backfield once again. Quick out. It's his tight end, McDonald. Amari Gaynor there on the stop. Hometown linebacker out of Tallahassee.
And you saw, you know, Amari Gaynor was all the way out wide covering McDonald because McDonald was lined up at that #1 position for a receiver all the way towards the sideline. So you see, whenever you get a defense in man-to-man, you can extend a running back or extend a tight end, it forces them to pull a guy out of that box where they're normally used to playing. Good job of staying over top by Amari Gaynor to just come downhill and make the tackle.
Corbin looking for a seam inside, give him about 3 yards. Toafili, rather, on the carry.
Now Gainer again on the stop. And we talked to the coaches about Amari Gainer, and we talked to Amari Gainer specifically, and we just asked him about, how comfortable is he right now? He's moved to the inside linebacker will position this year, which is probably his most natural spot. He started as a 3-4 outside linebacker because he has the size to rush the passer. But moving back inside allows him to run sideline to sideline, which is something that he can do because he has the talent to do it. But now they just want to basically double his tackle load. I mean, I played with a guy named Luke Kuechly when I was in college. He was the type of guy that just, you go make tackles. Just tackle anyone who comes anywhere on the field, and that's the type of guy Amari Gainer can be as well.
Travis checking down to Brian Robinson, who has a touchdown already in this spring game. Nice job of reading the defense, taking what they give you and picking up a first down and move the chains.
Yeah, and it's a good job of taking what they give you, but I really want to see him take a shot downfield. It's okay to take what he gives you, make your right reads, but you really want to see what he can do throwing the ball 10, 15, 20 yards downfield, because we just haven't seen that yet in this spring, and we saw it inconsistently last year. I always thought that he had a really good deep ball. He could put touch on the go route. It's just more of the outside breaking routes, the corners and the deep out routes, that his timing was a little bit off, and so I would love to see some of those routes throughout this game.
With you for 2 hours here in Tallahassee. First hour is essentially going to be 2 15-minute quarters, and then in the second hour, we'll have some guest play callers and hopefully chat with Mike Norvell about what he's seeing so far. Jordan Travis, we're seeing a lot of him getting the majority of the reps so far in this scrimmage for Florida State quarterbacks. Norvell's right there on the field. Hey, our next ACC spring game is next Saturday, Miami. They've got their game at Hard Rock Stadium, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the ACC Network. Head coach Manny Diaz and the Canes prepping for next season, where they will start week 1 against Alabama in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Both these teams, when you talk about Miami and Florida State, big-time openers. Miami taking on Alabama, and Florida State, Notre Dame, right here at Doak Campbell on the 5th of September.
Yeah, I'd say you don't get much bigger than those two opponents. It's going to be tough challenges for both teams. Florida State obviously had a ton of guys that are returning from last year, but they were all young. Pretty much everybody on this team are sophomores or juniors. Right here, watch the penetration up front by a guy they're really looking to step up, Dennis Briggs. Really big defensive tackle. He's a guy who is returning, but again, only a redshirt sophomore, and they think that he is probably the leader of that defensive tackle group. Missed half of last year with injury, but he was voted as the Florida State's most improved player throughout last season.
All right, 3rd and 18. Let's see what Travis does here if he opts to go downfield. Pump fake. Now the pocket collapses a bit. Briggs is in there, forcing him out of the pocket. Lets it flow downfield and hits his tight end, McDonald. That's going to be plenty for the first down. And McDonald, tough to bring down.
Wow. Talk about making something out of nothing. You see right here, that's where you want him to throw the ball, right as he gets to the top of that 5-step drop. But he clutches and he continues on the scramble drill. Scramble drills are different for every team, but usually you get 3 guys going towards the sideline, and then whoever's left over just finds open grass. That's what Cam McDonald did on that play. Found the opening, ran away from his defender, and his talented, speedy quarterback was able to find him with the ball.
Safe to say that Jordan Travis and Cam McDonald have a little bit of a connection here, as he tried to go to him again, this time incomplete, with Brendan Gant, safety, defending on the play.
Yeah, I think
young man needs a breather.
Yeah, I think they targeted him 3 times in this drive, back-to-back on deep balls. He needs a little bit of rest.
Quick pitch pass. Fortunately, losing his footing is Keyshawn Helton.
Yeah, Keyshawn Helton. He's a guy that they really like him. He models his game after the kind of Stephon Diggs, shifty, fast guy. Not a highly recruited guy at all, but he's turned into one of the biggest playmakers that Florida State has. Just because of his speed and his just natural ability. So you know, he considers himself a pretty detail-oriented wide receiver. The wide receivers that I've known haven't been in the film room as much as maybe some other positions, but he's a guy that's a little bit different. He wants to know everything about every play.
Knowles coming with pressure that time, and Jermaine Jones got to the quarterback as the clock winds down in our first quarter of action. McKenzie Milton with a touchdown pass. Jordan Travis has one as well. A couple of touchdowns on the board for the Noles after one. Florida State's hanging here, though, as they're going to, as we said, rules are really, who needs rules in the spring game? Clock winds down, but with zeros on the clock, we can still attempt a field goal. Parker Roadhouse. 41 yards from the left hash mark. Roadhouse splits the uprights. 3 more points on the board. One quarter in the books in Florida State spring game. Looks like the sun's coming out in Tallahassee, much to the agreement of Katie George on the sideline right now with Coach Norvell.
Mike, you told our crew yesterday that we needed to keep an eye on true freshman Malik Mclean, and for good reason. A couple of big catches downfield as well as the touchdown. What's impressed you about him thus far? You know, he's come out, on a great stage, your first spring game, and just come out and continue to compete. He's taking the things that he's learned in practice, applying them here, on the spring game, and it's great to see these young guys having success. Him, Kevin Knowles, Josh Farmer, all 3 guys that just graduated from high school, coming out making plays. It's good seeing our guys compete. Both Jordan Travis as well as McKenzie Milton have had success, especially through the air. What are they doing well? I think they're going through their progressions, continuing to take what the defense is giving them. There's a couple plays that, we've got to continue just to get the ball out when something breaks down. But, you can see their confidence growing in the offense, and I like what I've seen after a quarter play. Anything specific you want to see in quarter 2? Just continue to compete. Both sides of the ball, chasing the ball, playing physical. Let's play Seminole football. We appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Coach Ryan Fitzgerald puts his toe into it. Kicking off to start this second quarter. Got some ACC softball for you. Number 22, number 10, Florida State squaring off in their series finale at Joe N. Graff Field tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern. You can catch all season ACC baseball and softball right here on the ACC Network and on the ESPN app. I'm doing a baseball game tomorrow. I got Duke and North Carolina.
There you go.
ACC super competitive in baseball this year, too. Maybe not top-heavy like the SEC, where you got the Vandy's and the Mississippi States. But that next tier of teams down, including Florida State, including Boston College, very competitive.
I was about to say Florida State. I mean, probably had one of their worst seasons last year in football, but in pretty much every other sport that Florida State is doing really, really well. Obviously, we saw how far basketball went, and you mentioned baseball, but this is a school that puts so much into their athletic programs, and it shows. It shows because the players come out and they do it on the field, and they graduate, they learn. It's a really good program in football with Mike Norvell. They are in very good hands to get back to where they want to be and make Seminole football really matter.
Tate Rodemaker now coming to take some snaps for the Noles. DJ Williams, you see number 1 for Florida State, flanking him in the backfield, the transfer from Auburn. And limited a little bit this spring because of an ankle injury. But our first opportunity to see him, a little bit of a bigger back than we've seen. Swinging it out to a receiver on the outside, and a great job defensively coming up to make the tackle is number 26 for the Noles.
Kevin Knowles.
Yeah,
Kevin Knowles for the Noles. I mean, what a name, right? Like, could you have gone anywhere else? Probably not. If you're Kevin Knowles and you want to be a Seminole, that works out pretty well. And this guy is fitting well into the system. I mean, making that play is all about recognition. Once the ball is snapped, you see the quarterback turn his shoulders and open his step. You know it has to be a quick throw. Really good job by Kevin Knowles to shoot and go downhill and make that tackle.
Loss of 2 on the play. Second down and 12 for Rodemaker. Knowles coming with a little bit of pressure. The give to Williams, breaks the initial tackle, now gets into the second level. He's showing that 222-pound frame before finally being brought down by Deontay Williams, but a nice carry.
Yeah, watch number 20. That's Callan DeLoach, who really just had a wide open run through to the running back. He got in a kind of a bind because he was wondering whether the ball was going to be handed off or pulled. But what you want to see from a linebacker in that situation is just go tackle somebody. Go hit the running back, go bring him down. Coaches are really high on what DeLoach can bring because he is probably their most athletic linebacker. That's number 20. And just hasn't had a lot of experience getting on the field yet.
Kent Portier on the receiving end there on 3rd down, but it's going to bring up 4th down and 2. There's a look at DeLoach.
One of
the old man on
downs.
this team. He's a sophomore.
Yeah, I know, right? Sophomore on this team, and coaches are he's gonna play pretty much this entire quarter because they want to see situations just like that. Okay, you have a clean read. Can you come downhill? Yes, you check both of those boxes. Now can you make the tackle in the backfield? And it gets a little complicated, not wanting to hit a quarterback and tackling a running back at the same time, but good flash of awareness of the run play there.
You see the Florida State recruiting class for the class of 2021. Some of these players we've already mentioned today: Josh Farmer, Kevin Knowles, Malik Mclean with a touchdown catch earlier. Ranked number 27th according to ESPN. We'll see plenty more of them coming in here in the summer, competing for spots to contribute here early. Also a lot of recruits on campus this weekend.
Yeah, and obviously not for this 2021 recruiting class, but for that next year's recruiting class. I mean, you didn't have Miami, or Miami's not opening, as far as I know, not opening their spring game to recruits. Florida isn't either, and so a lot of these big name Florida recruits, this is really their only option right now to go and be seen and be at a football game. And they came out in swarms, and I'm sure the coaches were praying at halftime for this rain to stop to show these recruits a good time.
Travis J making the stop on Treshaun Ward. Now in the backfield with Tate Rodemaker. Ward out of the backfield. That's one thing coaches talked about. He did so well last year when he earned playing time, and he's able to continue to do that again here in the spring. Amari Gaynor on the stop.
Yeah, I think it's actually Milton in there at quarterback now. They keep switching around, but another good throw by Milton. But you mentioned Treshaun Ward, and we talked to the coaches and look, he's right in the mix. He's right in the mix. He's not going to just run past anyone, but he is so shifty and quick. You see the way he's able to put his left foot in the ground and cut back right. And the coaches said something really interesting, Chris. He said they know how to fall, right? Okay, makes sense. A quarterback knows how to slide, but running backs need to fall forward. And they said that Treshaun Ward is going to fall forward and get another 2-3 yards on pretty much every play.
Now here's Milton running the football. And obviously he's not going to get hit, but that's a good sign right there. We asked him this week whether he was limited at all in terms of being able to extend the play, run out of the pocket, or tuck it and run, and he said, no, I'm full gas, ready to go, and we saw it there.
Yeah, he's been full gas, ready to go pretty much every snap he's been on the field today. And coaches said, Mike Norvell said he probably had his best practice this past Thursday of all the spring. Things are starting to click.
Now over the middle, he's a receiver, and they connect inside the 10. That's the other early entrance, Joshua Burrell.
Wow. All right, so this is a play-action pass, big 5-step. You see how he's able to push off that back foot. That's the biggest question. That brace is on his right knee, and is he able to plant off that right knee and get touch and power on the football? Well, I think that just proved right there that he is able to do that, and can't brush over that catch either. Joshua Burrell, another true freshman, 6'2", 220 pounds. Look at this touch. I mean, that is perfectly in stride with 2 defenders on your wide receiver. and the concentration of that freshman to come down with the football, you're seeing a lot of guys that did not suit up for Florida State last year making big plays in the spring game.
Yeah, Burrell was an early commitment for the Noles in this class of 2021, and he did a lot of recruiting on his own, including to Malik Mclean. Jet sweep. Not a whole lot of room to operate for Helton.
Yeah, Jarian Jones, the corner, good job of staying on the edge and kind of negating Helton's speed. You saw a kind of unusual formation for Florida State, and this was 15 years ago. Quarterback taking a snap under center just every day. But it's interesting to see McKenzie Milton do that because so much of this Norvell offense comes out of the shotgun.
Third and goal
across
for
the
Milton.
board.
Into the end zone, up in the air, and falls incomplete.
Yeah, this is man-to-man, down in the goal line. Good job getting his hand in there with Jarian Jones, making back-to-back plays down in the red zone. Ball could have been a little bit farther out in front of the wide receiver. It was a good stop by Florida State defensively.
Ryan Fitzgerald will come in to attempt a field goal. Alex Mastromano will hold. This is what the spring's for, isn't it?
Yep.
Got to get 11 on the field.
You see that missed throw by Milton on that third down previously down in the red zone, and I know Florida State fans they're wanting scores when in the red zone, score touchdowns. Florida State was not very good. They're 111th in the nation last year in scoring in the red zone, and you obviously don't have all your pieces on the field at the same time, but I think that's an area that Malik Mclean, that true freshman, 6'4", he could be really impactful then when you get down into crunch time between the 20 and the goal line.
That one wasn't pretty, but it counts all the same. 3 points for the Seminoles. A couple of touchdowns, a couple of field goals here in the second quarter. Their first Florida State spring scrimmage. We've already seen Malik Mclean, heralded wide receiver out of Daphne, Alabama, with a touchdown catch. Josh Burrell with nice over-the-shoulder catch as well on that last drive. Josh Farmer made a play in the backfield, defensive lineman. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bryson Estes as well. They're banged up as they have been on the offensive line. So Estes, the center in high school, can play guard anywhere on the interior offensive line. And Kevin Knowles, defensive back, already has a pick and's made a couple of big plays.
Yeah, we talked to Norvell, and especially offensively, he said, my offense is made for playmakers. So it was no wonder why a lot of these playmaking wide receivers are committing to Florida State to play under this high potency offense. And you've seen already just the options that a quarterback has when you are able to get some time in the pocket to get the ball downfield to a guy like Malik Mclean or Josh Burrell or Ontario Wilson, Pokey Wilson, who we're not going to see a lot of tonight because he's already proven kind of what he can do for this team. But I mean, that's what this offense is built around. And if they're able to find some running backs who can run the outside zone, the inside zone, and the gap scheme, I mean, the sky is the limit offensively for this Florida State team. And defensively, you know, we already saw the playmaking ability of Kevin Knowles. Be able to find the ball, come down with an interception, and those are turning point moments in games. And if you can get that production from these true freshmen, I mean, that's all the better.
Rodemaker back in. Gets it to Corey Wren, who's met immediately and brought down. That time it was Akeem Dent. Wren, the track sprinter from high school, set all kinds of state records in Louisiana, but wasn't able to use that speed on this play.
Yeah, there was nowhere for him to go. Akeem Dent, they've seen that before in practice. You know, that's one of those plays that it's very difficult to trick your own team running that screen play because they felt it. They felt it 10, 15, 20 times in the practices leading up into this game. But good trigger regardless by Akeem Dent, who's back to full go now. We mentioned his injury earlier.
And Knowles continues to make plays, this time bringing down Wren, forcing the incompletion.
Yeah, and Kevin Knowles, he has got more room to grow in terms of size, physicality, but I mean, you see the willingness and the effort. He'll be able to come downhill. Twice he's made hits where they've knocked the ball loose and had an interception, and his angles, right? That's the most difficult thing for a defensive back to learn early, is what angle do I take, because the speed at this college level is so much different than high school. So far, he's done a fantastic job with his aiming point, with the contact and driving his legs through contact.
Dent again with a defensive play on Portier, and it'll bring up 4th down. So a 3 and out for this Seminoles defense on this drive. Mastromano in the punt for the Noles. Jamie Robinson back to return this kick. There catches it at his own 29. Next Tuesday, non-conference matchup in ACC baseball. Number 15, Georgia Tech hosting Auburn at Russ Chandler Stadium in Atlanta. Our coverage is going to start at 6 o'clock Eastern right here on the ACC network, and as always on that ESPN app. .20 left to go in the second quarter here in Tallahassee. We'll play 2 quarters of your traditional spring scrimmage, and then Mike Norvell will hand over the play calling reins to some guest play callers. We will announce those when the time is appropriate. Next 10 minutes and 20 seconds. Jordan Travis, incomplete. Dropped by Pokey Wilson.
Yeah, we've been told that Pokey Wilson is going to be limited on his play count in this game. Yeah, but he's a guy who he's their leading returning receiver, and he's had a fantastic job of using his speed to get behind defenders. I think what coaches are looking for him to develop even more is just his intermediate routes, the sure-handedness on his catches. But when we talked, just said, what sets him apart? And they said his leadership. He is following Malik Mclean around on the practice field, pointing out pointers and giving him coaching tips as they're running routes, literally walking behind him as Mclean is running routes in practice. And Norvell said, look, that's something that I can't tell him to do. That's something that is just innate about Pokey Wilson, and he's a leader of that wide receiver crew.
Nice catch by Williams, but he's brought down by Jamie Robinson. Transfer from South Carolina that Coach Fuller talked a lot about. Number 10, you see him there now on the inside. He's physical enough to play down near the line of scrimmage mark, but he can also cover. Williams again out of the backfield, met by Gant, falls forward, close to a first down. Looks like he picked it up.
Yeah, DJ Williams, he's going to be the big back. I mean, he's 5'10", 225. He carries pretty much all that 225 in his lower body. He's a physical runner. But the coaches said, look, even though he looks big, he's fast, and he can get out and run. You see his good hands on that little swing route as well.
Give to him up the middle, runs down a would-be tackler and falls forward for a couple of yards. That looked like Amari Gaynor that met him in the hole.
Yeah, they're going to need to establish more of this inside run this year. Really, their only inside run game last year with Jordan Travis at quarterback was like a midline read, where you're used to seeing the normal read option where you're going to read the defensive end or maybe a linebacker on the outside. Well, they run that midline where they read the defensive tackle instead, and that was successful for them last year, but they need to be able to produce with the running backs running up the middle in traditional run games.
2nd down and 8 on this drive after the gain of 2. Ward shifty, picks up about 5 before Gant brings him down. We've seen these freshman receivers flash some brilliance today. Katie George is standing by with a Florida State receiver who knows a thing or two about flashing brilliance.
Yeah, Chris, I got Peter Warwick here, an absolute great. Welcome back to Tallahassee. How does it feel to be inside Doak Campbell?
Man, it's good. I haven't been back here since like February or March, so it feels good to be back, man.
I'm glad to see you here.
Yes.
What excites you most about the job that Mike Norvell has done thus far and where he plans to take this program?
Like I was just telling him over there, what I like most is consistency. And they look like they're doing that, you know, like one play you look like you're doing something good, the next play you fall off, but they don't look like that right now. They look like they all in sync and everybody is on the same level.
You know better than anyone what it takes to have success at this level in this conference. We've seen some big-time catches already for some young guys, Malik Mclean, Brian Robinson, as well as Josh Burrell. What's impressed you about those guys?
What I like about them is the things that they're doing, like to set up the catch. You know, like when they get around the DB, getting on top of them, and when the quarterback is rolling, they following the quarterback, and so that's what I like.
Well, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Yes, ma'am. Any day, any day.
Chris.
Great to see Peter Warwick, one of the all-time great Florida State Seminoles, back here at Doak Campbell. And it's got to be great for these young receivers. I mean, just imagine having him on the sideline, giving a pointer or two when they come off after a play.
You know, the crazy part is that Peter Warwick probably played at Florida State before pretty much every one of these guys was born. Or most of them were born, but I'm sure coaches put on the film every now and then and say, look, this is what Florida State football is all about. You come here, you don't come here to be 500. You don't come here to just go to a bowl game. You go to Florida State to compete for the ACC championship and play in national championship games. And you know, getting guys like Peter Warwick and Chris Winkie, who's at the game as well, back on campus around these guys, just pouring into them a little bit of extra knowledge. That's a little extra that gets you there.
Knowles coming with just 4 as Travis tries to go deep and just beyond the outstretched hand of his receiver, Brian Robinson, who had lost the defender. Couldn't hook up, though, 4th down.
Yeah, he did lose the defender, and it looked like Brian Robinson really slowed down on that go route once he did lose the defender. I thought the ball was placed out pretty well by Travis in front of him towards the sideline. And I think that either Robinson slowed down or he got tripped up as he got around the defender. But that's a play that's on Robinson. You need to come down with that. He has a big play capability. You need to make the reception when it counts.
Travis J back to field this punt. Calls for a fair catch at his own 5. Mackenzie Milton, Mark, back in action.
Yeah, he's 6 for 9 today with throwing for 96 yards and a touchdown, but the numbers don't matter. It's the accuracy. It's his ability to move the ball with his arm and with his legs. It's the confidence that he's playing with in this game, and most of all, that right leg has held up. And not only just held up, but it's looked like normal. I mean, I don't notice any pitch in his step or any hesitancy as he drops back in his pass. And the biggest question for me was, how well can he plant off that right foot and throw the ball downfield? Well, he has shown that today. He can do it pretty well and pretty effectively.
Mark, you're in a unique position to talk about this. You almost lost a leg as well when you were in college. Different reasons. You with the cancer, and with Mackenzie Milton with the tremendous hit that he suffered in 2018. But there's a mental aspect to it too, isn't there? Even if you feel strong and you feel close to 100%, he just hadn't taken a hit in a while. He hadn't had to run in a game in a long time on that knee.
No, and also not only just the physical aspect of being in the game, but I bet there was a lot of times in his rehab that he felt like maybe he was the only person who believed he could come back and play. I felt that way at times, and he believed it, and he fought through it. And think about this, a year after the injury, the year of recovery, and then he gets an infection that results in 3 more surgeries on that leg, and the entire time he's had the focus of coming back and playing football again. And for me, mentally, once I got back on the field, yeah, it took a little time for my leg to kind of catch back up to my brain. I thought maybe I could go and make that tackle, but my leg didn't allow me to. I think it looks to me like McKenzie Milton is in a situation where maybe his leg is lagging a little bit behind, but it's not noticeable to me as I watch him. And I'm sure that the comfort and the confidence that he feels right now, I think that'll propel him. That'll propel him and continue to allow him to improve.
You could see Coach Norvell unhappy with Tate Rodemaker and his decision-making, very unhappy with Rodemaker on that call. You can see the confusion.
And really what Coach wants him to make the decision quicker. And I think what Rodemaker is saying is that, look, I called the play. I don't know what that little dribble between the legs basketball shot play is. However, he called it, but I'm sure Coach said, look, it needs to be quicker. And you see right now, Jordan Travis is in the huddle right now, just calming Rodemaker down, saying, look, this is spring ball. You're a young buck. The coach is going to yell at you. Don't let it get under your skin. And I've had plenty of times where maybe I was the young guy and getting yelled at incessantly by the coach, where I was like, man, I didn't think it was that bad. And then an older guy would come up to me, pat me on the shoulder, and said, look, you're a rookie. You're a freshman. Just take it. It'll get better.
2nd down and 10 on this drive. Rodemaker quickly out as a receiver. That's Parker Self, young man out of Hiram, Georgia.
A really good job by Rodemaker coming back. He just got yelled at. He just got reamed out by his coach, recognized the nickel blitz, and he put the ball on the receiver on the slant right where the blitz came from. Really good job, good poise under pressure. Doesn't matter where that pressure comes from. Defense, coaches, made the play.
Williams makes this play. Jaleel McRae on the stop, but not before Williams picks up a 1st down.
It has felt like really this 2nd quarter, the offense has started to move the ball more and more consistently. And Peter Warrick, mentioned that consistency, but the ability to continue to move the ball downfield, and I think has a little bit to do with the fact that we haven't seen Jermaine Johnson, the big D end, on the field since the 1st quarter. He was wreaking havoc in the backfield.
Deloche climbing the back of Treshaun Ward. Katie's on the sideline.
Well, I think you two might find this funny. When Jermaine Johnson's name was officially entered into the transfer portal, Mike Norvell immediately started calling him to make his pitch. Well, Johnson was busy packing up his house, preparing for his eventual move, so he just let it ring. He said it was an unknown number, so he just figured it was spam. Well, that same number continued to call, finally leaving a voicemail, which said, hey, it's the head coach at Florida State University. Could you give me a call whenever you can? And that's when the light bulb went off for Johnson. Oh, I should probably be answering all unknown numbers right now. He, of course, called Mike Norvell back, and he said it was just an easy sell. And Johnson says he's extremely happy now to be a Seminole.
Yeah, I'm sure once all these coaches saw Jermaine Johnson's name appear in the transfer portal, they immediately sought out that phone number and started making phone calls.
Yeah, and if they didn't recognize his name, all they had to do was see a headshot and look at his 20-inch neck and say, look, that guy looks like a football player. We need him at least walking off the bus first. This is a guy who we were on the Zoom meeting with him, and he was an impressive specimen to look at. Good job, good recovery by Akeem Dent to get back in the hip pocket of Portier. Made a bunch of plays so far in this game.
Yeah, Dent having a shorter spring than most because of injuries, just coming back into really full speed this last week and getting some time in the spring game. Now Rodemaker chased out of the pocket. On the run, just throws this one away.
It was Leonard Warner, number 35, on the pressure. Former linebacker, moved to D end in his 5th year.
He's the real grand old man on this defense.
For real.
As we mentioned,
Recruited here, been here for 5 years. One of the rare ones.
As we mentioned at the top, 75% of this roster were made up of freshmen and sophomores at the end of last year. That was the most in college football. Dangerous That pass was batted up in the air by Williams. Couldn't come down with it, but it falls incomplete. Caleb Blake, another transfer from Colorado State, defending on the play.
Yeah, good job by Blake. Understanding, look, it's a corner blitz. They send Akeem Dent off the edge. He replaced him and made a good play on the running back, who was the hot read. And yeah, those are the type of plays that if you're too slow on it, it's a big play. You get a ball off to your running back, he's down the sideline. If you're too quick on it, then you turn it into a man-to-man running with a running back down the sideline. So really good job timing that up by both Akeem Dent and Caleb Blake on that last defensive stop.
Pass for Mono, good kick, fielded at the 18 by Travis J. Our next ACC spring game next Saturday, Miami in Hard Rock Stadium. 11 a.m. Eastern time. Manny Diaz and the Canes prepping for their season opener in 2021 in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game against Alabama.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see that Miami spring game too. They have a lot of pieces to fill in. Obviously, the defensive ends out of Miami, Jalen Phillips and Quincy Roche are two top defensive ends in this coming draft. And where will they get their pass rush from? And find out when watching that game.
And De'Aaron King, of course, coming back from the knee injury.
Yep.
McKenzie Milton back in for another series. That's a dangerous pass right there. A little flip pass. Try to get it to Jayshon Corbin. Dangerous because if it doesn't go forward, that's a fumble.
Yeah, watch Robert Cooper, number 91. Great. I mean, he just absolutely pushed the offensive lineman back. I think that was Maurice Smith, the guard, pushed him back into the lap of the quarterback. That's what they want. That's what they really want out of Robert Cooper. They know he's a big guy. They know he's got the talent. But can he put it together and get those pressures? He's incredibly athletic. For a guy who weighs 335 pounds, he can do actual full splits, which I would love to see. Force him to prove it.
Nice run here by Toafili inside.
Yeah, good job. And it's patience in the gap scheme. You get two guys pulling around from the backside, and a lot of times running backs try to hit the gap too soon. Good job by Toafili, just being patient, letting it develop. Kind of Le'Veon Bell-esque. Dancing in the background and then bursting through the hole.
Mcclendon and Briggs putting the pressure on Milton. Got credit for the sack. Derek Mcclendon is a young man, redshirt freshman that coaching staff talked about. With Jermaine Johnson, you can teach a guy. That's what Coach Fuller was saying. You can teach a guy and tell him what you want to do, but when a guy like Jermaine Johnson comes in there and shows him on the field, that's invaluable for a young man like Derek Mcclendon to learn.
Yeah, it's interesting. These coaches all have teach tapes, right? Where you come in and you're teaching a new scheme or you're teaching a technique, and you put on a teach tape of someone maybe you coached in the past who has done it perfectly, done it to complete excellence, exactly how you want it to be copied. And that's great and all, but when you can actually see it in person from a teammate, it makes it that much more tangible. I remember in college, different things I would pick up from different guys on my own team. We had a guy named Tyrone Pruitt. He's a very athletic linebacker, and he had the knack to be able to kind of jump over blockers. Well, I decided one day I was going to jump over blockers, and it worked a couple times for me. So you kind of pick up these little things from your own teammates and from the teach tape, but it's so beneficial. And you see right now, another true freshman, a guy like Malik Mclean, who we talked about earlier, can watch Ontario Wilson. Another guy who he knows what to do. And so when you have some experience in your actual meeting room, it's so beneficial for these young guys.
Milton and McLean couldn't hook up there on third down, forcing another punt from Mastromano. This time Ontario Wilson back to return the kick. The Aussie punter puts his toe into it. Wilson with the fair catch at his own 18. Mentioned we're going to have some celebrity play callers coming up in the second half. One of them standing by right now with Katie George.
Yeah, Chris, I'm with Andrea Adelson, who is a member of the Worldwide Writers, along with Andy Staples. Andrea's going to be calling plays in the next portion of this scrimmage, which is Mike Norvell has dubbed maybe the grand finale. First and foremost, Andrea, how did this opportunity come about?
So Mike Norvell called me randomly a few weeks ago and said, hey, I've got this great idea for the spring game, want to make it really fun. Do you want to be a celebrity guest coach? And at first I said, Mike, you know I went to Florida, right? Are you sure you're allowed to have a Gator coaching your team? This seems really bizarre. And he's like, funny you say that. The guy I want to coach with you, Andy Staples at The Athletic, also went to Florida. Andy and I went to Florida together. So here we are, 2 Gators getting ready to be the celebrity coaches. We've got a play sheet here. Hopefully I didn't give away too much by showing that on TV, and we're gonna have some fun.
But you actually had a meeting. Somebody gave you the play sheet, and you actually sat down and had a meeting with Mike Norvell, correct?
That's right. Friday, had our coaches meeting with Mike Norvell.
Any advice?
So he didn't want to give too much advice, although he did say he would make fun of us if the plays failed. Sure. No pressure, Mike. Thanks for that. So we're going to be calling plays against Gene Deckerhoff, who's the longtime Florida State radio broadcaster, also calls the Bucks games, and Jeff Cameron, also here in Tallahassee doing radio. They're the local legends. Andy and I are the worldwide writers, and we're going to have, I think, 2 series on offense and defense to prove ourselves. So send all complaints, A. Adelson, ESPN. That's where you need to come and yell at me for the plays that don't work.
Well, so
they will, they'll all work.
Of course they will. 2 series on defense. Mark Herzlich, any advice, any plays you absolutely want to see in this next segment?
Just anything that looks like a blitz, call it. As a defender, I love when those blitzes happen, and you got to put pressure on these young quarterbacks, see if they can make some plays.
He said anything that has a blitz in it, call it. That's what he wants to
Oh, absolutely. I am telling you right now, we love offense and we love blitzes, so be on alert. Now, the one thing I will say, and I already complained to Mike Norvell about this, not a lot of trick plays on here. Okay, and this is a spring game. We want some trick plays.
The sun's out.
Maybe we will call it in the dirt and run it. You got to keep tuned in to see what we end up doing.
We absolutely love it. We'll be on the edge of our seat. Thank you so much, Andrea. We appreciate it. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
All right, looking forward to that here in the remaining 35 minutes of our time in this game. Coach Norvell continuing to coach up Tate Rodemaker. I also want to hear the calls with the terminology, you know, the spider Y bananas, and I want to see the hand signals too. I want to see if when they had that lesson earlier on in the week, Mark, whether they got all the hand signals in to be able to push the plays into the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would say I doubt it. And if Andrea memorized all those hand signals, then good for her. I mean, she might need another profession because she could line up to be a coach. I mean, some of these hand signals that they have are pretty intricate, especially for the offensive plays.
Here you see our guest coaches coming up, Gene Deckerhoff and Jeff Cameron. As Andrea said, a local flavor. Andrea and Andy, the writers. Second down and 18 on this drive, being led by Tate Rodemaker. Goals with pressure up the middle, setting up the screen, set up really well. That's Corey Wren. Now he finally gets an opportunity to show off that track speed.
Yeah, I don't even think he hit 5th gear on that one. Corey, I mean, this guy can absolutely fly. Talk about fast and proving he's fast. 4-time indoor state high school champion in the 60-meter. He set a state record at 6.79 in the 60-meter. That is very, very, very fast.
Heck of a back shoulder throw, too, and a nice catch by Kentron Portier.
Yeah, this is probably Rodemaker's best throw. See how he just puts it right away from the defender, and Portier does a great job of extending his arms out, making the catch away from his body. Portier's a guy that coaches think he has a really big future. He has a little bit of timing issues still, just with different quarterbacks. Obviously, having 4 different starting quarterbacks last year did not help any of the wide receivers develop much timing, but he's got all those intangible abilities, and coaches say that he's had a fantastic spring. So good to see him make that catch on the sidelines.
Yeah, you know, you got Pokey Wilson, 6 foot, 173. You got Keyshawn Helton, 5'9", 175, right? So you've got smaller receivers that have a proven track record and very quick and fast, but they, you know, it's almost like they missed that big frame. And so they're looking at a guy like Portier, who's 6'3". Certainly the two freshmen, Burrell and McLean, 6'2", 6'4", respectively, coming in.
Yeah, you're right. And what that size does is allows those kind of go routes on the outside by the taller guys, which can clear out 2 defenders. You get a guy like Malik Mclean or Portier running down the sideline, you have to have some safety help over top, and it allows for kind of the smaller, quicker guys, Pokey Wilson or Keyshawn Helton, to make some of those catch and runs short over the middle and downfield.
Again, the pressure getting the Rodemaker. He has no shot right now, as Deontay Williams and company are just pinning their ears back and coming. That'll wrap it up for quarter number 2 in this spring game. Our guest play callers coming up next. Play caller segment of this scrimmage. Mark, we just had Jim Nagy on to talk about the upcoming NFL draft, and this is an interesting graphic right here. Look at the way the numbers have dwindled in terms of first rounders and overall players drafted from the Noles.
Yeah, you look back to 2013, that was the national championship team that Jimbo Fisher led. You see 11 players drafted, 3 first rounders. And then again, 2015, they had another big year. But then after that, and after Jimbo left, it's been kind of a steady decline. And it's very difficult for recruits to come to a school when there's a lot of coaching turnover. And so what Mike Norvell is trying to do now is just, establish consistency, not only in the recruiting, but the development of the players. I mean, when you look at the draft or the signing classes compared to the amount of players drafted, it was not congruent. There was better draft classes than players drafted. Just the development of the players was not as consistent as it needed to be because there was so much turnover in the coaches.
Katie George is standing by on the sideline with one of Florida State's quarterbacks.
Jordan, can you hear me now?
A little bit. It's quiet, though.
Okay, I'm going to be really, really loud.
Okay, I got you.
Yesterday, we talked to Coach Dillingham, and he could not say enough good things about the way that you approached this spring and the different improvements you made. What areas of your game were you really focused on this last month?
I was just working on being a leader. That's my main thing. I'm a quiet guy, so I was just trying to get out and talk a little bit and just push the guys to get better. That was my main goal. And I feel like all the guys did a great job and around me just getting better as well.
You added Mackenzie Milton to the QB room. What's it been like competing against him as well as working alongside him?
Oh, it's a blessing. We're not even taking it as competition because we compete against ourselves every day, just trying to get better. So it's a blessing to have him here, and we're thankful to have him, and we're just going to keep getting better.
In your first drive, you had a great pass across the middle to true freshman Malik Mclean. What impresses you about the way that he approaches the game, and what could he possibly do for you guys this fall?
He's a hard worker. That's what I love. He's a guy that goes out and just gives 100% on every play. I saw him open across the middle. He made a great play, and it was great.
Is there any other players on offense that have really impressed you this spring that we should be looking out for as we move forward?
The offensive line, for sure, they did a great job today. They blocked their butt off, and I'm very thankful for them boys because without them, we can't do anything.
Well, we appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie and Jordan. That's interesting, Mark, that he mentioned the offensive line because, all year last year, they were so banged up. I think they had what the coach described, what Coach Norvell described as 7 bodies available on that offensive line, the Duke game that you and I called. And then even this spring, it hasn't gotten that much better because they've got a bunch of nagging injuries on the line.
Yeah, they do. And, some of the guys, really even the key guys that they're used to having, Devontae Love-Taylor, a guy who's really a leader of the offense. He hasn't been able to practice this spring, recovering from injury. And then now you talk about depth, right? You can have a good 7 guys, but this is college football. Guys get injured. Guys go down. You need someone else to be able to step up. And this second string line for this offensive line is very thin. So it's good to see that their quarterback, Jordan Travis, is pleased with what they're doing because coaches might have coaching points, but if your quarterback likes what you're doing at the offensive line, that's a pretty good sign.
Geno English in a quarterback now for Florida State as he swings it out to Deontay Sheffield. English, redshirt freshman from Winter Park, Florida. There's a look at Sheffield. Another one of the bigger backs, if you will, in this backfield. 5'11", 214 pounds. There's Geno English. Tried to set up the screen and doesn't work for Darian Williamson.
Well, so I noticed that Andrea Adelson's calling the offensive plays right now, and she's very screen happy. It's been 3 screens in a row that she's called, 2 to running backs and 1 to a wide receiver. But yeah, I think Sheffield, he was the running back. Go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say English hadn't played very much. So smart coach. Why not just try and get him a couple of confidence passes and then maybe try downfield?
I like it.
Or get Sheffield loose on the corner.
Sheffield's, he's got to understand, if you're not out of bounds, you can still get hit. he took a couple extra hits on that last run, but
hit him.
The people might, I know, you might recognize that name. He played mostly on special teams last year, but he did have 1 start in 2019 in the Sun Bowl against Arizona State, and he had a career high 87 yards rushing on 18 rushes. So he was a very capable runner. He just hasn't had a lot of action and been an impact player on special teams, though, for Florida State.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear from McKenzie Milton as his day has come to a close. Successful journey back to the field.
Seriously, I'm too young for hair loss. My hair.
Home and car insurance.
ACC Network Spring Football presented by Geico continues. Coach Norvell continues to coach. And Katie George on the sideline continues to talk to FSU quarterbacks. Here she is with McKenzie Milton.
Mackenzie, we're dying to know how'd it feel out there.
It felt great, just playing in front of the fans. We've been doing it all spring, but, it's been a lot of fun just to play in front of our fans, friends, and family. So just a good culmination of spring workouts and spring balls. It was a lot of fun out there.
How's it feel to be in black and maroon?
Feels good. It's garnet and gold, but I feel what you're saying. No,
you already know.
Yeah, it's a blessing to put on these this logo in Florida State, and I'm enjoying every second of it.
In your first series out, you had a great completion to Malik Mclean, and then you found Brian Robinson over here in the end zone. What impresses you about the young core that you have in the receiver room?
Yeah, they're all hungry, and they're just competing with each other day in and day out. So it's been a lot of fun just building chemistry with those guys from January to this point. And, summer is going to be huge for us to keep building that timing. And, fall camp, we got to be clicking on all cylinders to get to where we want to go.
I know your family came in from Hawaii and California to be here today. I think your mom, dad, and brother are way up in the nosebleeds over there. Is that where they normally sit? They don't want to be near the big crowds?
I don't know. I guess they just went wherever they could get seats. But no, it's awesome to have them here. It's been a long time since I stepped on a football field, and they've been supporting me through thick and thin these past couple of years. So it's a blessing to have all of them here.
So tomorrow you'll have a walkthrough. It'll be the final spring practice, and then you have a couple weeks off. I know you're in online courses, so will you go home? Will you stay here? How does that work?
Yeah, I'm gonna finish my courses. I'm gonna head back home to Hawaii on Thursday for about 2 weeks, and then head back. I'll stay in Orlando for about a week, and then come back up to Tallahassee for the summer from May to however long we play football for.
Now, what's the next step for you in terms of what area do you really want to improve upon before you get back here in the summer and then take it through to the fall?
Yeah, just getting bigger, faster, stronger, all those things, and just continuing to learn the ins and outs of the offense just so it becomes second nature, and just like I said, just so we're clicking on all cylinders come fall camp. So it's not just me, it's going to be a collective effort on all of us getting on the same page, but
I gotcha. We appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Good luck, okay?
Katie. Appreciate it.
It's great stuff. The State Rodemaker almost made a spectacular play running away from pressure here as we get the final few moments of this spring scrimmage. Mark, I think you said it best earlier. He's accurate. We're seeing him out on the field. We're seeing him run really well. But the best thing about seeing McKenzie Milton is just seeing McKenzie Milton.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you talk about comeback stories and when you talk about guys who, everyone's been rooting for just to get healthy and get back, it's McKenzie Milton. Every time that you watch that play where he got injured in 2018, your heart breaks for the kid. He has such a special career at UCF. And to see him be cleared to play in August of 2020, sat out last year in rehab, but now he's ready to go. And he's going to be back on the field again for Florida State. And I could not imagine what his parents' emotions are like, what his emotions are like. But it's so great to see. And we already saw one amazing comeback this year with Alex Smith and the Washington Redskins. And this could be the next great one with Florida State and McKenzie Milton.
Signing autographs for the fans that are in attendance here today at Joe Campbell Stadium. Obviously, they're happy to see him. And you heard from Jordan Travis a little while ago as well. He had a good spring scrimmage today.
And when we talked to the coaches, too, we talked to Kenny Dillingham, the offensive coordinator. And we said, what's it been like since McKenzie Milton has come to this quarterback room? Because, Jordan Travis was a guy that he's working hard in this offseason to be a starter. The coach said he's had an extraordinary spring. But getting McKenzie Milton in that room could either put pressure on Jordan Travis and make him fold and say, look, maybe they don't have confidence in me, or it could push him. And what it sounds like and what we've seen on the field today is that it has pushed not only Jordan Travis but McKenzie Milton to both be better quarterbacks and both get this playbook down even better. So, Mike Norvell, it's a good problem to have. Which quarterback is going to be the quarterback on opening day? We're yet to find that out, but he's got two good options.
Well, Mark, earlier in the broadcast, you talked about how successful Florida State has been in their spring sports, both baseball and how about softball, ranked number 10 in the country, taking on Duke in the series finale of their Big Four game set at Joanne Graff Field tomorrow at 3 o'clock right here on the ACC network. And as always, you can check it out on that ESPN app as well. Back onto the field, Andrea Adelson and Andy Staples making the calls on this celebrity play calling version of the spring scrimmage. And Malik Mclean with another catch. We saw him make a catch and run for a score early on in the scrimmage. True freshman, early enrollee.
I think that's been the biggest takeaway from this spring game is, yes, we want to see what the quarterbacks look like, but how are the young guys or the new guys, maybe to put it better, going to play and perform? And the wide receivers have done a great job of performing. We've seen defensive end transfer, Jermaine Johnson make a big impact on the field. Kevin Knowles, a defensive back, freshman, an impact on the field. And the latest big play, Austin White, redshirt freshman, number 82, getting the tight end involved in the pass game. That's what Norvell wants to do, and the young guys step up, making a big play for a touchdown right here.
Geno English found him. Pump fake, then gets him open and free down the right sideline.
Yeah, it was really an inside fade route, almost an inside wheel from the slot position from White, and really good job by English to find him. And he didn't put too much loft on it, just got it in the receiver's hands, and knew he had a wide open run to the end zone, and looks like that'll put the exclamation point on the spring game.
And I'm not sure if that was Andrea Adelson or Gene Deckerhoff that made that call, but I'm going to say it was Andrea Adelson because I'm a homer and she's an ESPN employee. We've worked together for a number of years. Good job, Andrea. Good call on that.
Great call. She knew man-to-man coverage was coming, a little switch right on the outside. Takes a lot of film study to understand that. Good call. Round of applause for them now, too.
White golf shirt.
Oh, man! You know what? I think Gene might have called that play because he got the Gatorade bath. Oh, they both got the Gatorade bath.
Oh, well, Deckerhoff is over here with the white hair and the white shirt. He escaped it. Adelson got it.
He did.
Yeah, Deckerhoff's a wily veteran. He isn't going to be fooled into getting a Gatorade bath.
No,
Seen
no
it
way.
all. Adelson. Well,
Yeah,
it was raining,
fogged up
actually
now.
pouring. Right, it was pouring earlier in the day, so Adelson was probably already wet from that rain.
Yeah, and she's got a rain jacket on. It's pretty much the best situation that she could be in for a Gatorade bath. However, it's going to be an interesting. I hope she doesn't have to get on a plane right after this or anything like that, because change of clothes might be required. I don't think they talked about that in the coaches meeting on Friday.
But that wasn't part of it. Adelson and Andy Staples getting the Gatorade bath as Mike Norvell addresses the crowd here in attendance at Doak Campbell Stadium. Bonus coverage coming up. Don't go anywhere. A moment ago, he had the mic. Great hype man, getting the crowd there at Doak Campbell fired up for the 2021 season. Chris Cotter and Mark Hertzlich with you for a few more minutes as we wrap things up with the spring game. Want to remind everybody looking for ACC baseball, got Virginia and Clemson. That's a great series this weekend, but they've got some weather there. So first pitch slated for 8:02 Eastern time. So about an hour from now, we'll send you over to Clemson and Virginia baseball. But for at least a few more minutes, Mark, we get to talk about what we just saw here over the last couple of hours. And really, it was about McKenzie Milton. He looked really good out there, didn't he?
Yeah, he looked really good, and he looked smooth, and he looked like his timing was right on point. I mean, he's only been in this offense for a few months, and it's very apparent that he has the timing down, the footwork down. He understands the plays that they called for him today, and it'll be just how much can he expand his knowledge of this playbook and how fast he can get it down. Because you saw, he has all the intangibles. He has all the physical abilities. If he can pair up his mental capacity with this offense and with this playbook, with those, I mean, the sky's the limit for him for this year. And they got receivers and threats now on the outside, and these young wide receivers in Malik Mclean and Josh Burrell.
Let's find out what his head coach thought about his performance. Coach Norvell is down with Katie George.
Coach Norvell, who's with you right there?
This is my daughter, Mila.
Is Mila a big football fan?
She is.
Not a fan of the band, though, right now.
Not a fan of the noise.
Overall thoughts of your second spring game, well, first spring game at FSU?
I thought it was a great day, you know, just especially with the weather that was here earlier today, and, you know, to see all of our Seminole family come out and support your guys. I mean, it definitely just shows the importance of our program and the impact that we get to make, and, you know, really appreciate, you know, the way that our guys have competed throughout the course of the spring. You know, a lot of back and forth is what you want to see. The offense, I thought the first offense started off really well. Defense responded there, you know, there in the second quarter, and I thought made some really good plays. I thought the quarterbacks, you know, competed at a high level. You kind of see the growth that they're having, an overall understanding. But, you know, we're going to be able to go back and watch this, and it's going to be great film for us to teach off of. But I thought the guys showed up today.
What excites you about the competition that you're going to continue to have in the quarterback room as you move forward into summer workouts and then when you get to preseason in August?
Well, you know, when you see guys that have unbelievable character, great young men, that the investment of what they're putting in, you know, off the field is showing up with what they do on the field, and, you know, they're competing with each other and they're supporting each other, and that's one of the best dynamics in a quarterback room. Is, you know, we all want to compete. Everybody wants to go out there and play and be the guy, but when you can be in that competition and embrace the relationship of who you're with, that's what makes it special, and those are the type of young men that we have in that room, and you know, I think that it's making them better through that process.
Before Chris tossed it down to us, you turned to an assistant and you said, make sure all the players go and talk to the former players that are here today. Why is that important to you for that relationship to be built?
Because once a no, always a no. We represent them. I mean, this program stands for something that is special. There is a standard of excellence in all aspects of what we do because of what they've built. And, you know, looking back over the years, you've seen the process, you've seen some of the highs, some of the lows, but this program is truly embodies and embraces the all-inclusive approach to who these guys are on the field, who they are off the field, that development, and it's just the relationship. No matter if somebody played 15, 20 years ago, I mean, the importance of that relationship with our current players, it's going to be something remarkable, because I do believe that the past, right, connecting with the present, build you for the future. And we've got an unbelievable past and a great tradition and unbelievable former players that come and support us through this process.
Well said. Thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and go Noles.
All right, great job, Katie. And thank you, Coach. And you saw Odell Hagens there, still defensive line coach for this Florida State team. There he is, right there with the visor on, former player. And he's been around a while, Mark. And Coach Norvell keeping him on staff. Outstanding coach, outstanding mentor to these young men, and a great recruiter in the state of Florida when you talk about all the years that he's built those relationships with the high school coaches and the programs in Florida.
Yeah, and also just to keep him on staff because of his relationship with all the former players. You just heard Mike Norvell talk about the importance of the alumni, the importance of the guys who have been here before. All those guys know Odell Hagens. I mean, he's been there 28 seasons, so if you played here within the past 30 years, you know Odell Hagens, and what a good connection point for current players and former players to have. You mentioned the recruiting trail. He is fantastic at doing that, but I mean, he's a guy that he builds bridges amongst the former players, the current players, the coaches. He all ties it all together.
There's Coach Hagens right there. And, you could even go not just former players to current players, but as we mentioned before too, Mark, you got a lot of former players. We heard from Peter Warwick earlier. Obviously, the current players that are there, and a lot of high school kids, a lot of recruits that were at this game today because of circumstances there in Florida, and Florida State taking advantage of it. Imagine those kids watching the stadium with fans, watching the spring scrimmage, watching all these former players, and being able to even converse with some of the former greats from Florida State. That had to be a real special experience for those young men in high school right now that are being recruited by Florida State. Mark and I will be back to wrap things up after this from the Florida State spring game.
Get a turkey footlong from Subway. That's oven roasted turkey piled high with crisp veggies on freshly baked bread. So let's get out there and